Welcome into episode 8 of JD's Empire Sports Talk. I'm John Downey, your host, along with my brother Ryan, our Jets specialist, who's here for week 2. Guys, he's back. I didn't think he was going to come back after last week. I thought he was going to go on a rampage. I mean, he looked like he was starting to when he was ripping the coaching staff. We're glad he's here today. We'll recap yesterday's game against the Dolphins. We'll get into Aaron Rodgers' 500th career touchdown, which is an accomplishment, a pretty big one. We'll get into what one word we have to describe Rodgers' tenure, the 7th pick they have in the draft, and some other off-season moves or news that they have, or they're all basically offering anybody that's coached as a head coach in the NFL a chance at getting an interview for this job. I mean, when things don't work, I'm sure that's the only way you can go. Just try to get like 20 guys in here and see who can be the perfect candidate for that. But first, let's start with yesterday. We were in attendance for the 32-20 win against the Dolphins. It always feels nice. I mean, I know the Jets had nothing to play for yesterday. The Dolphins did at the time, like when the game first started. They needed a Broncos loss and for them to win. That didn't work out for them because they lost the game and the Broncos won anyway. But we can get into first, like, what happened? What did you see out there yesterday? Because basically on the offensive end, honestly, the whole team, those are the things that we wanted to see the entire season, what everyone expected. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case.
The defense showed up like they haven't been.
Yeah, I mean, they played great.
they look like 2022. I said that
Yeah.
to you at the game. After that second interception, I looked over and said that. And then the offense, once Devontae came here, that's what we expected.
Right.
And we didn't see it. And yesterday was what we thought it was
Yeah.
going to be.
I mean, it was funny. We couldn't stop laughing at Ashton Davis with the 2 picks. I mean, the guy, he barely plays, but when he gets out there, shout out to Ashton. Always making plays, doing something out there for the team. Not the most talented guy, but there's a reason why they kept him around. They like him a lot in the locker room, and he just goes out there and somehow gets interceptions left and right. Like you were saying, on the offensive side, that was what the team envisioned even before Devontae. Like, they envisioned everyone contributing, the ball moving. First half wasn't good until the end, pretty much. But that second half, they were just rolling. I mean, every time they had a shot at scoring, they were. Rodgers threw the 4 touchdowns, most he's thrown as a Jet in the game. Before that, he only had the 3 a few times, but 4 yesterday. Did have that ugly pick in the beginning of the game. Finished the year with 11 picks. Not like him, but I mean, that's things that happen. Going back, I wanted to say with you with defense. Granted, it was Snoop Huntley who was only throwing screen passes, so it was very easy to pick up on him. But listen, if they had that defensive performance, I want you to get into this. That defensive performance, and probably they won 5 games. That defensive performance comes up maybe in another 5-6 games. What happens?
I think they get into the playoffs. 10 wins got in. We lost 12 games. If the defense plays like that in 6, we're in the playoffs with 11 wins.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it as well last week. 6 leads they had in the 4th quarter. I mean, that could have been a game yesterday. Look, it was trending that way a little bit, a little nerve-wracking. When they were up 25-20. Potentially another 4th quarter lead being blown, which thankfully that wasn't the case. I mean, listen, we're not going to sit here and say, oh, we want the team to lose, because that's not what competitors do, and it wouldn't matter anyway. Like, with this team, that they lose a lot. They lose a lot, so honestly, 4-13, 5-12 wouldn't have made a big difference. I do want to get into the way the game happened. I don't know. We were there, so we didn't see everything that was on TV. But we did see some videos after, but just the way, like, the sideline and, like, guys were celebrating with Rodgers, especially when he got all he needed was that first touchdown to get 500. The way that was going on didn't seem like he would be a guy that's coming back. I don't think so. And then he threw for 501, 502, and 503. Every time they scored a touchdown, Lazard caught one, his good buddy. Devontae wanted to get him one, and Breece Hall finished off with the last one. I don't know if you feel the same way, but the way they celebrated didn't feel like it was a team or a guy that thinks he's going to be back in this uniform or ever play again.
Yeah, they walked off the field together like they did in Green Bay, and then they never played in Green Bay together again after the Jets. And after every touchdown, they celebrated like it was going to be his last, and he kept throwing them, and then he was hugging Lazard, hugging Devontae, hugging some of the coaches.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of those things, like, if it was his last game, that's pretty good way to go out. Honestly, we don't know Rodgers very long. Obviously, we watched him, but like being like fans of the team that he played for the last 2 years, yeah. But last year, obviously, he didn't play. But watching and listening to all the things he says, I don't think he's going out. Especially we watched that Netflix series Enigma and how he didn't necessarily, he has an appreciation for Brett Favre because of how good he was, but I don't think they got along in the beginning. That's how the way they portrayed it. He didn't really get along with Brett just because of the way he treated him. Like he was just looking to learn from him and like hang out with him and get better. Brett Favre wasn't the kind of guy that wanted to do that for him, so that's why we saw how he talked about it. Of course, the Rodgers documentary is about him, so he's going to make it in a way that he looks good, but I believe it. Jordan Love always talks about how he was there for him for everything. So that's why I don't think, like, if Rodgers is he's 6 away from getting ahead of Brett Favre, 5 to tie, he's not going out like that.
No, I don't think so. He wants to be better than him, and this is his opportunity to show that he is better than him.
Yeah, I mean, I know we talked about this last week as well. Like, I don't think he'll be back with the Jets. I think that ship has sailed. I know Woody Johnson came out yesterday and said it's up to the new coach and the new GM. I feel there's some coaches maybe that'll come in veteran. If it was a veteran coach, I'd be like, okay, we'll take Rodgers for the 1 year. We'll draft a guy, bring someone else in for the year after. If it's a younger coach, I don't think they would even keep him around. I think they would kind of just want their own young guy to grow with. Especially, like, in this league, Gerard Mayo just got fired after 1 year. We've seen it numerous times lately. Those 1 year, like, 1 year can make or break a team. Like, you don't want to be wasting time with a guy that's maybe older and not getting better when you could just bring in your own guy. But something else I want to point to, Rodgers' 500th touchdown. He's the 5th guy in history of the NFL to do that. I mean, we didn't get to see the best version of him, but take me through how good he was from the beginning to now. Like, he's an elite player. Not as much anymore, but he can still do it.
Yeah, he showed it this year, even though it wasn't one of his best years.
Wasn't vintage Raj, as everyone likes to say.
He's still 40 years old and put up good numbers.
Mm-hmm.
He was able to put the football in spots that other quarterbacks aren't.
Yeah.
He can make the off-platform throws. And he showed that he can still play if he wants to come back next year for another team or the Jets.
Definitely. I think he could still play. Listen, he threw the 28 touchdowns. I feel he left a few on the board. Potentially he did. I think that the problem was that they tried to pass too much. Like, they relied on him like it was the Raj of, like, when he was 30 or late 20s. Wasn't the same guy. I know the run game wasn't great. The blocking schemes were terrible pretty much the entire season, and Brees suffered, not even getting to 900 yards on the season, unfortunately. But that's one of those things where you have to think, listen, if Rodgers comes back, new coaching staff, you need Brees to get that ball over. He needs to get it at least 230 times. I know he missed a game this year. He didn't even get 200 rushes. Like, I know you were a former running back back in your day. Running backs want the ball. Like, they want to get that rock as much as they can, right?
He should be touching the ball 20, 25 times, even maybe 30. And he's a dynamic player.
He is. That's what I'm saying. He needs the ball. Like, we saw the touchdown he scored from Rodgers when he threw it to him at the end. That's what he can do when he's in space. Listen, Brees is not the guy he could do it. He's not the guy to run up the middle and get with the big boys. He's a guy that runs outside. That's why you have a Braylon Allen to get those tough 1 or 2 yards when you need it. You have the guys here. Like, this coaching staff has to understand that. Like, you come in, you got short yardage running back, Braylon Allen, perfect. Pass catching running back, Isaiah Davis, who's shown something yesterday running the ball as well. Brees Hall can do it all for you. Garrett Wilson, we don't have to talk about him. He's that good. Hopefully, you can keep Devontae around. That's another top 20 weapon in the league. There's a lot of good that can come from this team if coached right. That's the thing. Like, we know, I want to get into this. We'll get into the one word to describe Rodgers' tenure in a few seconds, but Rodgers gets here with the trade. Everyone's like, everyone in the media. I mean, we were Jet fans, so we're biased, but like everyone that's not a Jets fan, we're like, oh, this Jets team's for real. Like, you're coming off a 2022 season. They had 7 wins. 7-10 they go with no quarterback. They had Mike White in there. They had a bunch of guys. It was a circus act. Then you go out and trade for Aaron Rodgers. I mean, the year before when they got him, wasn't a guy that played at MVP level. That version of him we thought would be enough. He did better than 2022. The version of that wasn't enough. But we thought, okay, you're pairing Aaron Rodgers, a Hall of Fame quarterback, 2-time MVP. Like, he was just a guy. Like, he's that good. Wasn't enough, unfortunately. Okay, I'll let you go first. Your one word to describe the Rodgers tenure as a Jet, which we're assuming it's over, but we don't know. But we're thinking that it's over just the way it went. What's your one word to describe the Rodgers tenure?
I'm going to go with disappointing.
Okay.
I know that pretty much sums it up. You don't really have to explain it because he was brought in. Everybody thought they were gonna go win the Super Bowl,
Right.
probably last year, but obviously 4 plays in, the season was over.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to go back to Zach, and we all know how that ended.
Yeah. I mean, that I can say the same thing. I would say heartbreaking to me because listen, I loved watching Aaron Rodgers from afar when he played in Green Bay and like all the battles he had. He only won the one Super Bowl, but he was always in the playoffs, always entertaining as well. Always in his press conference. I mean, I'm one of the guys that liked him. I still like him. I appreciate what he did for the game, especially coming to the Jets. Listen, if you're willing to play for a team that hasn't won anything and like you want to be the change, and he's still willing to do that. Like he's saying, like I'm open to playing here if they want me back. Like of course he has to decide if he still wants to play. I just think he's making that part up. I think he is using it as like a negotiation kind of thing, like with other teams. Of like, oh, I don't know if I want to play. We all know you want to play. He's that kind of guy. But I really think it's heartbreaking and like you said, disappointing because this is a guy like I don't know. I feel as Jet fans, this is the one that gut punch to us. Because, like, we thought this would really be the one that would work. Like, they tried drafting quarterbacks. We saw Sam Darnold. Didn't work out here. Go somewhere else. Of course, Jetway. He goes to Minnesota. Balls out. Zach Wilson, another top pick. Didn't work out for numerous reasons. I mean, I don't know if he'll have success in other places. But the way it works with guys that were drafted by the Jets, usually they do have success in other places. We saw Geno Smith. We talked about that in length last week as well. So we really thought this would be the one thing that would be like, okay, the Rodgers is coming in. The Jets, this is it. Like, this is the move that's going to get us into winning ways. Unfortunately, didn't happen. So this is like, I don't know. I feel like the next step for this team, like, I don't think we're expecting much anymore, right? What do you think?
I don't think you can. I don't think you can. They did everything these last 2 years to try and go out and win the Super Bowl, and it resulted in 2 seasons of missed playoffs.
Yeah, like this year too, like everyone's like, oh, it's on Rodgers. The one thing I think we can agree on, Rodgers' play wasn't why they had 5 wins. Granted, they could have won a few extra games if he played good in certain spots, yes. His clutch factor was not there in the beginning of the season. That's what I wanted to get to. The selfishness out of him. I understand he missed the entire season last year. He wanted to go out there and play all 17 games to show that he's still healthy and can play. But if he goes in there and misses 3 games, rests that hamstring knee and all that up, that could have been a game, 2 games, Tyrod goes in there and wins, and that could have been a difference in the season. Rodgers rests up, he comes back, he's not trying to battle out of the injury as he's playing. Especially in that Patriots game, that Steelers game, when he was definitely getting on the healthier side, but still injured. If he rests those few weeks before that, comes into that Steelers game ready to go, you never know what happens after that. So that's the one thing I can say, knock on him. I know you can talk about it a little too. I would knock him, of course, just the way it went. Like, it wasn't all on him, of course. Defense is up there because the way they played this terribly throughout the entire season. Once Salah was fired, they thought that would be a spark plug. That didn't work. I think they checked out, and we've seen that with the way that the guys have responded in like press conferences and all that. The kicking game lost them probably 3 or 4 games on its own because of how atrocious. I mean, they had 5 kickers this year, and I don't think one of them. The guy yesterday, Greg Joseph, veteran, good guy, I'm assuming. Couldn't even kick the ball in the end zone on a kickoff.
He couldn't even get it inside the 20 on one of the kicks, and they got
a penalty for it. I mean, those are the things winning teams don't do. Like you see, like last night, Detroit steamrolled a fellow 14-win Viking team because they don't do those stupid things that cost them games. Every once in a while, yeah, they'll have a J-Mo taunting penalty because he's nuts in the head. But besides that, they shut it down. Okay, we got to move on. The Jets always find a way to do these stupid things, which is they can't get out of their own way. So I think before we'll get into, I didn't write this in our notes or anything. I kind of just came in my head now. Before we get into like what pick they have, which we said the 7th pick before, and some other things, I want to ask if you can give a report card grade to each category. So we'll do coaching, we'll do offense, defense, special teams, and you know what? We'll throw in front office because we can throw a few jokes out there when we get to that. But first, let's start with the coaching. What grade would you give to coaching? I'll just let you go. So do coaching, give you whatever you want, head coach, everyone, do whatever you want, and then go. Just do it.
I think the coaching is going to be an F.
Okay.
They started 2-3. that wasn't the start that Woody Johnson wanted. He fired Robert Saleh. They thought of Jeff Ulbrich, who was a good defensive coordinator. I don't know if he was calling the plays, but the defense was doing good.
Mm-hmm.
The offense, it was like a C. They were average. They put up points, but they couldn't do enough.
Not consistent.
They couldn't do enough to win the games at the end.
Right.
Mike Williams throwing it up to him, running the wrong routes, not reaching him.
Yeah.
And then the defense, I would say it was a C also. They were average. They got better at times during the season. Towards the end, they were really good in the beginning.
Really good, yeah. First 5 games, pretty. I mean, they didn't have the numbers. I don't think reflected like how the rankings. Because the rankings are they're always a little off.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't the same they were the last 2 years, but they still would have been plenty. They would have been fine if they stuck. Listen, everyone wanted Saleh fired, so we can't even say we can't pretend that we didn't because we did. But we look back on it, maybe that wasn't the move, right? Maybe that wasn't the right move. Maybe a move was going out there and acquiring a defensive lineman or two to shore it up that they didn't have that they let go in the offseason. Or the guy you trade for, maybe he shows up in the beginning of the offseason and things go differently. The guy didn't even end up with a full sack. Hassan Reddick played like a bum for the Jets.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that goes differently, like you said, and the tide's different the entire season. There's a lot of things we can go and look at that could have happened differently that didn't. But unfortunately, that's the case. And when you had special teams, right, in the front office, special teams, what do you give them?
Special teams, it was probably another F. The kicking game.
Morstead might have saved them a little bit.
D to D minus. Just because Thomas Morstead, he's a fan favorite. He is a good punter.
Good guy. And a good guy.
And a good guy.
Yeah.
He ran out of the tunnel last year.
He did, yeah, after the punter of the week or something, like the player of the week.
Player of the week.
Yeah, they gave him for that. And then the front office, listen, I know we like to make jokes. We don't know who's actually calling or running the show out there. We know reports were saying Brick Johnson, Woody's son, who's only like 18 years old, was supposedly involved. As a Jets fan, I wouldn't doubt it, but I really hope not because that's pathetic and embarrassing that you have a kid running the show. That's like having one of us try to make decisions in terms of a roster. I don't think we can do that. I don't think we're qualified for that. I don't think Brick Johnson's qualified for that. Woody Johnson is one of those owners that, I don't know, he's involved too much. I don't think that should be the case when you don't really know what you're talking about most of the time. Just like yesterday, he's like, oh yeah, I'm happy to end the season with a win. It doesn't matter, Woody. Like, that doesn't matter. Like, you didn't do good the entire year. I mean, we know that he wasn't happy that he got rid of guys and all that stuff. But also, I think I'm not giving Joe Douglas credit for anything. I mean, he did have a good 2022 draft that probably saved him another year or two on his job. If he didn't have that, he probably wouldn't even been here this long. But I think that he was handcuffed a little bit in terms of what he wanted to do, especially this year when Woody said we have to win. Woody, I think, got a little too much involved this year in terms of, we're getting Hassan Reddick. No, I don't want JFM and Bryce Huff back, when a guy like Joe Douglas, who's a football guy, understood the value of those guys to the team. Unfortunately, wasn't able to bring them back. He was trying to get rid of Lazard because Lazard was not consistent. And last year, he was not consistent at all. And he was trying to get rid of him to try to get better. Before, they still had a chance of acquiring Devontae either way, which we saw. I mean, that's one of the few types of things there that could have changed the season. But what's your grade for the front office?
I'm going to give the front office a C.
Mm-hmm.
It should be worse.
I think you can even say incomplete too, because you don't know what the hell is going on in there.
Yeah,
you really don't know.
We don't know who's calling the signings, who's doing the trades, because there was a report going around that they didn't trade for Jerry Jeudy because of his Madden rating.
Yeah, I really hope that wasn't the case, but yeah.
But I think it was average, the front office, because they did get everyone that the fans wanted. Tyron Smith, but he didn't work out because of injuries.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Mike Williams, every fan wanted him. He didn't work out. He got traded.
Yep.
And then they did add to the defense, but they also subtracted from the defense, which made them worse. But Joe Douglas really did everything that the fans wanted.
He did. No, he went out there, got Aaron Rodgers. He made the trade. Like, you obviously a player would want to come to a team, but you still have to do the work to get him. It didn't work out for him, and unfortunately, that with the coaching staff, we didn't think, I don't know, we didn't think this coaching staff in the front office was the best, but we thought that they could be a part of the turnaround that gets them into another level of even just making the playoffs, because they haven't done that in so long. But that wasn't the case, and like we said before, we'll get into it, the 7th pick in the draft. I don't know. I'm not too excited about the draft this year. Not many talented. Like, there's a lot of talented players, but not guys that could be difference makers. I feel like right away. There's a few, but I don't know if they're in the range of that. And I don't think they can afford to trade up. I don't think they're in the market to do that, just based off things they've traded recently and the way it went. I also don't know if they trade back, because like, what's the point in that? I don't. It depends like what the situation is. Because I don't really know if there's many teams behind the Jets that need quarterbacks either. So I don't think that's a good move. If they were to trade back, like, why? You're going to lose out on a player that maybe you can just plug and play, and that doesn't happen. Like, what do you think of the 7th pick? I don't know. I'm not too excited about it. I don't really know.
I think top 5, obviously. If you're gonna be bad, you want a top 5 pick.
Yeah.
7's in right in the middle. There's 10 to 20. You can draft a tight end. 7, you're not really gonna draft a tight end.
No.
I think you can trade back if someone in the 13 to 15 range wants to trade up.
Yeah.
I love that guy Tyler Warren from Penn State, but I don't think he's worth the 7th pick. I think if you trade back, then you can take him.
Not at all. So I feel, I don't know, if this is me, if a GM and a head coach comes in and be like, we want a quarterback, they're going to trade up. And they're going to, because I don't know, I feel every time a GM and a head coach that comes in their first year and they have a premium draft pick like they do, they're going to try to make a splash move to show that they're committed and willing to win. So if it's a coach and GM that don't want Rodgers back and they want their own quarterback, I could see a trade up for that. If they keep at number 7, I think a guy like Mason Graham could be there. Abdul Carter could be there. There's another pass rusher out there. I think that could be a shot at them getting, or even a cornerback. I don't know. DJ Reed's walking. I'm sure he's not coming back. Like, I don't know. You draft a cornerback at number 7. He has to be like a game-changing type of guy. I don't think that's the position they really need, like, the most. Then if they trade back, I think that's where you get into, like you said, Tyler Warren. Could be another offensive lineman. Could be a receiver. Number 7 could be the Arizona McMillan guy as a receiver as well, but I also feel if you trade down a little bit, maybe to like 11 or 12, 13, like you said, you can still get him at some point. But I feel they're not particularly drafting for a certain position now. I feel, because they have a lot of good players, like we said. Like, this is not a legit full rebuild. It's not. They have a lot of good players in good positions that, like, you're counted on, like, a lot. But there's also positions that they need to shore up. I think the most predictable thing that should happen, I don't know if you can agree with this, is defensive line at some form. Like, we know they have Will McDonald and Jermaine Johnson coming off injury, 2 edge rushers that'll be there for a long time, but it doesn't hurt to have an extra one. And we know Big Quinnen in the middle needs some help. Or even a linebacker. I don't know, maybe Sherwood doesn't come back, you draft a linebacker. There's a lot of question marks on defense. What do you think? I don't know. Defensive line, probably the best bet, right?
As of right now, I would go with defensive line. Hopefully, a guy like Mason Graham is there. Abdul Carter from Penn State. There's 2 guys from Georgia that we've seen in the Notre Dame game.
Yeah.
That they look pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And then McMillan, definitely, if Devontae isn't back.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like, there's so many question marks you don't know. Like, I don't know. If you ever tight end wise too, like, I don't know if Tyler Conklin would be willing to come back and be the tight end too, but that's what they would need him for. Like, he can't be the tight end 1 now. Like, there needs to be an upgrade in that. I mean, he did his job playing for the Jets. He did okay. Like, he's a good player. The only way I bring him back is if he's willing to be tight end 2. Probably not the case. They're going to probably have to go out there and draft a tight end, and I don't know what they'll do after that. But this is another thing I wanted to get into. Like, I don't know. I feel like we said, the roster is very talented, young though. So they need a coach that will come in there and not let them do whatever they want and let them say whatever they want. Because we saw as the losing kept piling up those younger guys who are going to be here. Because I feel like most of them will get re-signed for the most part. They're starting to voice their opinions because now they're going into their 4th year. They're not the little puppies that came in being drafted. Like, now this is their team. And I think there's certain candidates out there that could be appealing to the players. Because the player, I don't know, I feel they shouldn't have a say in it, but they should be, okay, like, this is a guy that we'll get behind and we'll play for. Because you don't want to bring in a coach, I don't know, I've been targeting Arthur Smith a lot. I don't like him as a head coach. I don't really like him as a coach at all. I don't think that's a guy that he'll come in and be like, the players will be like, oh, we want to play for this guy. He's not an appealing candidate to this job. Maybe he could be to another team, but I feel for the Jets, that's not the guy you do that for. So maybe if you can, off the top of your head, maybe 2 or 3 guys that you think that could be appealing to the team, the fan base, and just overall the experience of turning this around. Because I feel like they tried the offensive mind, they tried the defensive mind. Now I think it's the like they say, like we like to make the Madden jokes, the motivating guy, the team builder. Who do you think that can be?
I think Mike Vrabel or Rex Ryan would be like the motivator. Because Mike Vrabel, he's been into the playoffs with average rosters. I think our roster could be better than that. Rex Ryan, he hasn't coached in a long time, but he did get the Jets to the playoffs. And if you go young, I think Liam Cohen, the Bucks offensive coordinator, I think he would be a good guy to take a look at because look what he's doing with Baker Mayfield.
Right. I think I can give you a few as well. I like the Liam Cohen one. I just don't think that maybe he's ready for the Jets job. I think if you gave him something where maybe go to Jacksonville, turn Trevor Lawrence around where the pressure's not on him as much, because I think he could be a really good coach. Mike Vrabel, I think that ship has sailed. I think he's going to the Patriots. I don't see another reason why Gerard Mayo would be fired if it wasn't for him, because Robert Kraft likes to say, the Patriot way. So he wants to bring in another former player. Rex Ryan, he's adamant. He thinks he's getting the job. I don't know. He must know something. I feel he's one of those guys that's not going to go out there and say something if he doesn't think it's true. There's another guy. I'm not a big fan of him getting the Jets position, but I could see as a motivating type of guy, Brian Flores. But I think he would need to bring an outstanding staff in with him, like someone where he doesn't have to think as much as he did in Miami in previous years. That staff he had in Miami with him is not great.
No.
So I think that for him to really get his motivational skills and all of that out there to the Jets, I think they would have to really depend on a really good staff around him. And I don't know, I'm digging the Cliff Kingsbury, he's coming back, getting in those interviews, hopefully. I know he said he's interested. I feel, what he did with Caleb Williams at USC last year, what he did with Jaden Daniels this year, rather, and, how, I don't know, yesterday we saw in the red zone, but right before we went to our seats in the Corona Club, how good, how much those guys like him and how much he developed Jaden Daniels from week 1 to now. They won a game that got them to 60 to act like they were going to the Super Bowl. They love Cliff. I feel like he was another guy. His first chance in Arizona didn't work out the way it should have. He's another guy that needs to come in with a really talented staff so he can show how good he can be. Those are names that were just thrown out there. There was a few other guys that we saw getting interviews. Don't even waste time. I don't even know why Jeff Ulbrich should even get an interview. I feel I don't know. I know they're gonna show him respect, but he did nothing for this team. There's a few other guys as well. I don't think you even buy why? Why are they coming in? I understand they want to talk to all these guys, but you don't even have a GM yet. You're trying to bring in 18 guys. But listen, we have I know we talked about this a lot. We don't have many expectations for this team anymore. So whatever they do, bring in a coach, bring in a GM, whoever it is, new quarterback. We'll get behind them. We'll support them until they don't do good for us. But hopefully this could be the next regime that comes in and really does it. Do you have any final thoughts? I know next week we'll get into more off-season news and all that stuff throughout the weeks and all coming up. But any final thought after the regular season ends?
I just hope they keep their young core together, like Sauce, Garrett, Jermaine. They said they want to be here to turn this around.
Yeah.
I hope the new GM, whoever it is, hope the new head coach keep them. And I hope Woody Johnson gets the hires right.
Yeah, that's it for this edition of episode 8. I hope everyone enjoyed watching. Make sure you guys go out there, follow the Instagram page, the TikTok page. All the links are everywhere. It can get confusing. But also, full episode will be out on YouTube, so just hopefully you guys can go in there, comment, get the views up for us. We're getting a lot of good feedback so far. We can see all the numbers of who viewed stuff. So it has been a good improvement, almost about a month in now of the show. I'll be back later in the week talking Knicks and Rangers. Unless some breaking news comes in for us, me and Ryan will be back. Next week we'll get into the college football championship. Those semifinal games are coming up Thursday and Friday. I'll put some predictions up for the playoffs for the NFL because they're starting on Saturday. So I'll do my talking head on the top of the screen with who I'm picking. A lot coming up. I'm excited. Baseball coming around the corner. I'm sure Ryan will like to talk about that. If you want to be a guest, email. I have the email set up on the homepage, or just DM on TikTok and Instagram. We'll get back to you. If you would like to be a guest, we could set it up over Zoom, maybe in person if I know you're good enough and willing to do that. But thank you for watching episode 8, and that is it. Thanks for coming on, Ryan. Have a good one, everybody.